Since I notice a shift on the market demands, this video I will show you some tricks on how to do statistical analysis with GPT. For some of you, this video could look like a professional suicide, but as I said also in other occasions, I don't see generative artificial intelligence as a threat to my profession, and in this video, of course, you will understand some reasons of why I think so. I actually think the opposite. It is like a win-win solution. The person wanted to build a comprehensive report for marketing purposes. They specify something about the data, something that will return later, and they want to analyze the data, create some charts, and this GPT stuff I honestly didn't understand. And if I didn't understand it, imagine a generative artificial intelligence. They provided enough data. We have like 2K rows. As columns we have a decent amount, and we deal with cosmetics data. If I paste to GPT the data and the specifications, and I slightly refine the request adding this, and I tried to do so following the words of the user, you see something that I anticipated in other occasions. Notice that I used the reasoning model, and the prompt, that means this kind of input, is important. Why? Because as first output we have something that in many occasions I said it is practically useless. That is a descriptive statistics, that means a count, in this case of the gender of the customer. Then they specify this is a proof of concept of the pipeline they wanted here. They give useful suggestions like connecting to this and then using this and this for the emails. Probably it is better this one, but in general I find all this improvable, and this is another problem of generative artificial intelligence. They give you suggestions, but you have many choices and you don't know, especially as a non-technical user, which is the best choice, and then they provide more details. This is a prompt that every non-technical user could ask. And with the next prompt, I gave something much more technical, and generally also with reasoning models. Generative artificial intelligence works better when you give them more details. You can notice, even as a non-technical user, that this chart is useless because all the variables have the same probability. So I tried to fix this and it failed, so I had to change the tool as a technical prompter, and this is something that many people don't tell you. The prompt is important, and if you're a technical person, you most likely find the right prompt. So this video can count also as a free course compared to the many ones out there that charge you a lot and leave you with very little besides big promises. If we change the prompt again with something again technical, except correlations, we start to see something useful. And I specify to start with the contingency tables. Again, step by step works better with the current generative AI models. And with my surprise, they directly went with the effect size of the variables instead of specifying this inference indicator that tells you signal versus noise. So I appreciated that they provided directly this. And here we return to why I said that the context is important in generative AIs. The context, in this case, it is the input, the prompts, the attachments, and so on. You notice that in this chart they put also usage. And in this request, I wanted to identify the features of who repurchases the products. You understand that this is extremely relevant for marketing purposes, and in this case with this answer we have an answer completely useless also here, and here you have something useful, but the variable usage is a confounding variable. The artificial intelligence put it because in the data we don't have something that I mentioned again in many occasions. that is the data documentation. If we had, for example, in the README, a data documentation that said what is the meaning of the variable usage, most likely the model wouldn't have picked it for this kind of analysis. Also, without a proper data documentation, most likely the model wouldn't have picked also preferred brands and product name. If you do the sales representative, you know without knowledge of statistics or data science that the brand or the product name indirectly tracks the repurchase. And instead, here we have something very informative but not a surprise, the beauty concerns are the highest driver for the repurchase behavior after taking out this first variable that, as I said, is confounding. Now that we have something useful, I said what I anticipated you, and I asked to build a logistic model because I don't find it useful to create reports. And again, this is something that a non-technical user doesn't know. You don't need scheduled reports with such kind of data. Once you know the variables that explain the sales, in this case the repurchases, that is important, you don't need reports every month, week and so on, spit out to different emails inside the company. You need a model that explains your most important variable that, in my opinion, in this case, is the repurchase. I specified that I want the variables from here to here, even though I don't feel sure, as I probably made you understand, about this variable and this variable. Then I added this more non-technical user input, and with my surprise, they didn't discuss in the answer this part. Anyway, they built the model, and the result is decent. Don't get fooled on this one, and you will soon understand why. You have to look basically this one. Here we have a problem with the confusion matrix, and I specified that I couldn't see it. And I also said the recall is too high, and I wanted to see a table of the target variable. With my surprise, the amount of people that do this is higher than what I'm used to, that is less than 10%. So now understand why the recall is so high. Also, it is not a trivial exercise to see the details of the code they built, because inside here I saw many fields of improvement. For example, the test size. In all the videos I do, I build models with the complete dataset because my purpose is generally explain a variable. In technical terms, explain the variability of a target variable. So my next input is to increase the test size to something more reasonable in my point of view. And of course, out there are many people that don't agree, but this is my standard, so we can have something more solid. As you can understand, the recall goes down if we have a more conservative test size, but this value is much robust than this one. Again, you don't have to focus on one single method. Next, I did something that sometimes happens in my videos, that is a trick to increase the prediction power of a basic statistical model like the logistic one. I have to repeat myself, when you build a logistic model, you have a 0 label and a 1 label. In this case, 1 is repurchase, 0 is not repurchase. The prediction of this model isn't a 0 and 1, but a probability that becomes a 0 or 1. The default threshold is 50%. If it is equal or higher, then it becomes 1 repurchase, otherwise no repurchase. But nothing prevents us to play with this default threshold. Basically, if we do this threshold tuning, we can see that we can improve the recall. It is the probability of predicting correctly the repurchase class. Of course, when we increase this, we sacrifice something else, as you also see that I wrote here. At the end of the day, I like this one because it seems the most balanced and the most reasonable compromise. In my experience, in statistics you have much less field of compromise compared to pure IT. Here you see, they notice like 5-6 different stuff, and For each point they write, we could have a lengthy debate. In statistics, fortunately, it is more simple. For example, in some videos I said that we could decide to have a model that explains less but is more robust to some things. In other cases, we explain more, but we know that such model will give us more problems in the future. Those are some basic examples of compromises inside data science. There are of course others that I explain in other occasions. As a conclusion, for this analysis with the GPT, of course, I asked the suggestions to improve the model, and surprise, surprise, as first suggestion, they have something that is bring in richer behavioral signals that I call them data enrichment. Data enrichment means bringing in more columns. More columns generally means other behavior signals. When they go into the details, I don't agree. For example, all these might become confounding variables, also these ones. Those could work in the very short term with other kinds of model, not for a general model that explain the repurchase variable. We already saw from here that this variable, that is the most powerful one, is deeply rooted inside the psychology of women. More insecure women purchase more. So you can find the ad that exploits this vulnerability. I say nothing new at all for who works in the marketing. This might sound a bad practice, but unfortunately the world creates revenues also with something we might find debatable in terms of ethics, but that's it. Then they say feature engineering. I agree with this more. On this I agree a bit less, because it is too algorithmic in my opinion, and it can create artificial things. On this one I agree, but for a simple statistical model like logistic regression, we explain already a lot without using more computational expensive models that also have more issues with interpretation. Again, on this one I agree too, but remember, this is not a video that goes hardly into the details, but tries to remain non-technical, even though some prompts are technical, because I wanted to show you how differently the behavior changes of the artificial intelligence model. So those are the results with ChatGPT. Fortunately here we don't have a big dataset. When you have a big dataset, it becomes a problem. I did the same with Gemini, that I prefer with other tasks, and I honestly got a bit disappointed even though I used the last model. The model did a pipeline as well, but I prefer the one of GPT. The script they provided was also extremely basic, of course full of descriptive statistics like GPT in the first prompt. Then I asked the same question I did on GPT without adding the Bayesian detail, and I got disappointed because they did basically a descriptive statistics study, something again quite limited. Then and they also included the confounding variable, because again we don't have a data documentation that makes the model understand which things are reasonable and which things are not reasonable. Then I went more technical, of course, and you notice that they didn't use the Cohen effect. They used the p-value. This is much less workable, also because you don't see a chart. So also for this reason I got disappointed. I think that I made clear that yes, you can get some things done with the generative artificial intelligence, but without the proper prompts, what you get done is basically useless. So I think you understood why I said that I don't see GPT replacing me anytime soon, even though I surely noticed an improvement of the outputs compared to non-reasoning models of months ago. I made clear that the quality of the outputs depend on the prompts and on the data or attachments you provide to the AIs. So those tools aren't a magic wand, but you still need to put some work in order to make them function in the best way. And unfortunately, most of the people, fortunately for me also, are used to use GPTs as Google, and when you tell them they have to write more in order to get more, they easily lose the patience. That's all. Bye and see you the next time.